Good morning, gentlemen. Thank you for setting some time to meet with me this morning. When we spoke a few days ago, we scheduled about 30 minutes or so for this meeting. Does that still work for both of you?
Perfectly.
That's great. Is there anything in particular that you'd like to get out of today's meeting before we start getting into the meat of the meeting? Anything on your mind, as far as finances are concerned, or anything of that nature?
Just what we talked about.
Okay, that's fine. So we'll get to some of those things as we go on. As we start, if you're like most people, you want to know a little bit about my professional background. Finance businesses have always been a big part of my life. You may know that I'm a lawyer by training. We may have discussed that earlier. So I've always managed to combine my interests in law and finance to use them to my clients' advantage. In fact, when I first earned my security licenses many years ago, I did it while I was still practicing law with the idea that I could use that knowledge to help my clients in my law practice. And so this is a natural transition for me as someone who does retirement planning and financial planning. You know what, I'd like to take a minute with you to go through our firm brochure, which I took some time to find here today. We're part of the New Jersey Financial Group. We fall under the Prudential Life Insurance umbrella. You might know that, or you'd like to know that Prudential has been in business since 1875. We're proud of that, especially being from New Jersey. We're a New Jersey-based company, even though we have a global reach. The state is near and dear to our hearts. Our purpose when we first started 145 years ago was to help people maintain a dignified standard of living. It began by putting our clients in a position to bury their loved ones, essentially. But as times have changed, we have also changed and made transitions. We still have those basic values at our heart, but we express our purpose somewhat differently than when we first started. We really focus now on helping Americans live their life with the financial security and retire with dignity. What do you think of that?
Sounds great.
Any questions in that regard? Okay. So, most people really know us as an insurance company, but we're just so much more than that. You might like to know that we're among the top 10 global assets managers in the world. We play in the same field as BlackRock, Vanguard, companies of that nature, Fidelity, Goldman Sachs. In fact, we manage 23 of the top 25 corporate pension plans in the country, and I believe it's 19 of the top 25 public plans, state plans, and so forth. And in fact, we still manage our very first corporate plan that we opened in, I think it was 1923. They're still a client of ours, a very happy client of ours. So you'd like to know, as far as you're concerned, as you can see here, we take as much pride and care in managing our individual clients' money, your money, as we do with our institutional clients. We have offices here in East Brunswick where we're meeting today. I hope you had a relatively easy time getting here.
Our garage is a maze.
We find that this location is very convenient to all of our clients throughout the state. We have clients from down near Atlantic City all the way up by Bergen County, and naturally within this particular area. As we're going through this, anything on your mind? Anything in particular you're thinking about?
No, not right now. Just interested to see the work that you do.
Okay, well that's great, and I'm happy to share that with you. Really, I'd like to spend the majority of our time getting to know both of you if you're open to it. We begin by developing a framework that focuses on you and how important you are to us as clients. And what we usually do, and actually I shouldn't say usually, but what we always do is we sit down and we discuss your situation so that we can establish your financial goals. It's important because we need to understand your situation before we could begin to help you. And as a result, we go back and consult with our team, and there's literally dozens of people that we consult with within our organization, depending on your needs, your wants, your concerns. We analyze what your needs are, and then we come back to you and with a roadmap, if you would, that sets forth a strategy that you might want to use going forward. And in fact, every plan is a little bit different. In some cases, much different, I should say. But this is an example of the type of work we do when we put pen to paper. And this is an example of somebody that we've worked with in the recent past as far as putting their entire financial situation in order and developing a plan for them. This is something that could very well be done for you. There's a lot of interesting information here. If you'd like to take a look at it, you're free to do so. So, any questions at this point?
No.
So, okay, so once we do that, we sit down, we come and we review this plan or roadmap that we've set forth for you. It's essentially the strategic foundation that's set forth for you as you go forward in your life. Now, we understand that typically life changes for all of us. So what we also make it a point to do is to go through every 6 months at a minimum, preferably every 3 or 4 months, and constantly review your plans and your strategies, and to help you implement those strategies in ways that you intend to. Make sure the plan's working the way you like to do. If there's any readjustments that need to be made because your situation in life has changed, it's the appropriate time to do it. So essentially what we do is serve you in a cycle. So we're always coming back, listening to your goals, establishing new goals that you may have and so forth, and going back to our team and developing new strategies and plan and implementing with you. Now, do you have any questions about the way we work with our clients as we go forward?
No.
No, straightforward.
Okay. And if you do have any questions, just stop me and we'll sit down and we'll discuss them at a little bit more length. Do you think that something of this nature would provide value to you and your financial situation?
Most definitely.
Okay. So typically what happens is that these meetings play out of one of 3 ways. The first way is based on how I answer your questions and how our discussion has gone. You determine that we're not a good fit and this particular moment isn't a good time for us to work together. It happens on occasion. The second way is based on how you answer my questions and how the discussion proceeds. I'm going to tell you that for the time being, you have everything under control. Anything that I might suggest at this point might be redundant or cumulative, and right now is not a good time to work together. Something we might want to revisit in the future. The third and most common way is to determine that there's really value in this process that we just described. There's room for you to grow, to get value out of what we have to offer as a company, what I have to offer as an individual planner for you. Does this seem like something that might work for you?
Yeah, never had that done before.
Okay, that's wonderful. Now, so what I'd like to do is to take time to find out a little bit about the both of you. If you're open to it, we can begin this process. Now, what we have here is, in going through this process, we've developed a nice illustration to put a picture, so to say, to the words. Again, if there's anything that you have as we go through this, just stop me and we'll discuss it in a little more detail. But these are the typical concerns that all of us as Americans have. We describe them in a very general sense as future concerns. First future concern, if we're like most people, involves our retirement. Would you agree that's something that might concern the two of you?
Yes,
So,
definitely.
so when we talk about retirement, we think of what kind of things?
401k,
Very good, excellent.
some IRAs,
IRAs, excellent. What else?
not
Anything-
having enough money.
Precisely, and that's one of the things that with the future concern that we're set out to address. But very good, in addition to IRAs and 401ks, this also encompasses the types of monetary investments that go around that, fit in with that, such as stock brokerage plans, such as perhaps annuities and things of that nature. So there's a lot of financial instruments, if you will, that encompass our future concern when it comes to retirement planning. Sometimes we think about the tax consequences of saving for retirement. That is all involved in that. As we go on, we're going to try to address some of those issues with you. How does that sound?
Sounds good.
Anything on your mind? Any questions at this point?
No.
Okay. So the next future, now, by the way, do you have any children?
Yeah, 2.
Ages?
10 and 11.
Okay. Where do they go to school?
Private school.
Okay, and tell me a little bit more about that. What schools do they go to? What grades are they in?
St. John's and whatever 10 and 11-year-olds, whatever grade they're in.
Okay, wonderful. So I would say, what, 4th and 5th grade usually,
Yeah.
right? So that must be a lot of responsibility in paying their annual tuition.
Oh, yeah.
Agreed, right?
Mhm.
And I would make an educated guess that if you're devoting your time and your energy and your resources to putting them in private school at the middle school level, that you might want to do the same thing in high school.
Yeah, if it makes sense.
And you may want to do the same thing, that you may be helping them develop an interest in the college education.
Most definitely, yes.
So these are just precisely the future concerns that we are prepared and able to help you address as we go forward. You know, the age between 10 and the age of 18 when a child enters college seems like it's far off, but it comes very quickly. So it's important that we do that kind of planning now. Now, the next type of future concern comes around what we call cash management and liabilities. Just take a minute and ask you, what does that mean to you?
Making sure I have enough money in case I get fired, anything happens.
Very good.
Managing my cash.
Managing your cash, very good. Having a rainy day fund if perhaps your car breaks down, or if you need a new roof on the house. Agreed?
Yep.
Okay, so what we usually do is we try to encourage our clients to keep 3 to 6 months of monthly expenses on the side where they have ready access to it. And I won't go into the details now unless you want to, but there's a lot of ways we could help you do that and help keep your money working for you as you do that. Do you have any money set aside now?
Yeah, probably about 3 months worth.
Okay.
Salary.
And where is that money located, if I may ask?
Savings account.
And do you know how much interest that you're getting on your savings account?
About 1%.
About 1%, and that's typical, right? So one of the things we do is not only help you structure your ready cash so you're prepared 3 to 6 months out, but we try to help you get that money working for you a little better so that maybe you get a little better rate of return on it. How does that sound?
Sounds great.
Great. The third cornerstone, right, or foundation of your financial plan comes around protection planning. Now, that's a very broad word. Does that have any significance to you before I do any more talking?
Protecting everything I bought in life and worked for in life.
That's outstanding. That's outstanding. You must have a finance background.
Worked at Prudential.
Or you came from a school of what we call a hard knocks and experience and all, but that's a very good thought. Anything with you, Ike?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it means that I'm not losing my stuff in case something happens.
Precisely. So basically, in a very broad sense, we talk about protection planning. In plain English, we talk about insurance. perhaps life insurance to make sure the rest of your financial plan plays out as the way you intended, if something were to happen to you. Perhaps disability insurance, if you were to become injured or unable to work, to make sure your plan plays out the way you intended to plan out. But it also encompasses things such as automobile insurance and homeowners insurance, all kind of insurance and protection planning features that we will discuss down the road. These are all things that we like to make sure our clients understand, have full knowledge of, and if there's any questions, we're here to answer them. If there's any solutions that we could recommend, we're here to do that and to incorporate it into your roadmap, so to speak. The fourth cornerstone involves taxes and estate planning. Now, does that have any particular significance to you?
Not at the current moment.
I mean, if we don't have to pay taxes, like,
Okay.
cool.
So that is really a cornerstone that we as an organization are involved in more indirectly than directly. One of the things we will do is help you and sit down and develop strategies in which you have investment vehicles where you might pay no taxes at all. In some cases, we may be able to defer taxes for you. We do a complete analysis. But this fourth cornerstone is just so much more than that. It involves for example, the involvement of your accountant, your CPA. You have somebody that prepares taxes for you?
Yeah, my cousin's a CPA.
Okay.
Takes care of that.
And does he sit, what's his name?
John Smith.
John, and where's he located?
Right in New Brunswick.
Oh, that's wonderful. Have you been working with him for a while?
For the last couple of years.
Okay, I'd like to get to meet him at some point, but they're the kind of individuals we like to sit down with in collaboration with you to help make sure your plan works out the way you want it to work out. Right along with that is issues of estate planning. What do we mean by estate planning? Make sure you have wills in place, powers of attorneys in place, living wills. You know what a living will is? That's a sort of a power of attorney that if something were to happen to you and you can't make medical decisions for yourself, you have to appoint somebody. Not something that we do per se, but we work with attorneys who do that very competently. Do you have an estate plan?
Not really been considering getting all that done.
And do you have an attorney that you work with?
Yeah,
And who would that be?
my other cousin.
Okay,
Mike Smith.
wonderful. Do you both work with the same attorney?
Yes.
Okay, that's great. So I'd like to sit down with that individual too at some point with you and collaborate on how you might be best served. So now that we've developed the four cornerstones, and you have a basic understanding of it, is there any questions that you have, anything that I haven't addressed that you'd like me to address?
I think you covered it all. Sounds like there's a lot of work to be done.
There is a lot of work to be done, and that's why when we go through this process, it's just not a one-time meeting. We usually come back and do several meetings, and then if you implement the strategies that we recommend, then we meet 3 to 4 to 6 months. It's an ongoing process through your life. Just as your natural life has a cycle, your financial life has a cycle. It's important that we refresh ourselves, we get ourselves fit every now and then. We try to do that on a regular basis. We don't want to go 5 years and gain 50 pounds and then we find out that we've had it work, then we have to work extra hard to lose the 50 pounds, right? If we can keep things in check as we go along throughout the year, it works a lot better. It's the same kind of analogy in financial planning. Now, let me just take a minute to talk about how we work. We essentially are compensated in 3 ways. And I bring this up because, like me and like most people, our clients are very anxious and they're very, they like to know how we're compensated and how that affects them. So the first type of compensation model is what's called fee-based financial planning. And that's occurs when we sit down, we create a comprehensive plan for you, you pay a fee, and then depending on whether you want to implement some of the strategies that we recommend or not, we go forward from there. The second common way is called wealth management. Basically, a client would ask us to aggregate their accounts, if you will, and manage them on an annual basis. Again, doing periodic reviews, and that would be for a set fee. And the third and most common way, basically what we're here for today, is a needs analysis. So after we put together our plan, if you determine that something is appropriate for you at the time, then we would work on a case-by-case basis. If you think something needs to wait, then we don't have to do it at the moment. We could go, months down the road or weeks down the road, whatever the case may be, and serve you in that capacity. And typically what happens is that when we have clients that are relatively early in their careers, we start with a needs analysis. And as your financial plan becomes more valuable and more complex, then typically people like to work toward the financial planning model. Any questions around that?
Sounds good.
Okay, anything else jump out at you as far as what we've talked about so far? No questions?
Not at the moment.
Okay, so at this point, what I'd like to do, I'm gonna put this aside, and what I'd like to do, if you're open to it, is talk a little bit about your individual situation. And I've developed this little sheet around what we will discuss for the balance of our meeting. Okay, so now if you're excuse me, like most people, you have some kind of retirement plan at work. And I
Yeah.
probably, at this point, it's a good time to ask, what kind of work do you both do?
I am a engineer,
Okay, and who do you work for?
Johnson & Johnson.
That's what a wonderful company. So is it right here in New Brunswick, or is it out?
Right down the street.
And what kind of engineer do you do with, engineering work do you do with Johnson & Johnson?
Medical devices.
Okay, how long have you been there?
About 10 years.
Oh, that's wonderful. I understand it's a great place to work.
Yeah, they treat me good.
They
well
take
there.
very good care of their employees. If you're like most of the people that I've dealt with at Johnson & Johnson, you probably have a 401k plan through there.
I do.
That works for you?
Yes.
You've been contributing to it?
As much as they match.
Okay. Have you done any more than that?
Throughout the years, depending on, my income, bought a house recently, so.
Okay, we're gonna get to some of that, but before we go too far, how much does Johnson & Johnson match?
6%.
6%, and that's the extent of what you're putting in now?
Yes.
Okay. Do you think it might be beneficial for you to put in more money into that plan as time goes on?
Yeah, but as of now, it's with what I have coming in and what I'm spending,
Okay.
makes sense.
That's fine, that's perfectly fine, but would you like to be open to a plan that might help you maximize your retirement savings?
Of course I would.
Okay, and that's a good thing. So, Wyatt, tell me what kind of work you do.
I work in the product development side at JP Morgan.
JP Morgan, okay, and what do you do in product development?
What do I do? Basically, I find things that were made not so well, and I design ways to make them better and function better.
Sounds
for
very,
everybody.
very, very interesting. Where do you work out of?
This city?
New York?
Yep.
Boy, how long have you been there?
Probably about 4 years now.
How's that going?
That's great.
That's great. How's it commuting into and outside of New York City every day?
Sometimes it sucks, but, it's great to be working in the city.
I was gonna say, you get that stimulation work into the city, and
Of course.
sometimes that overcomes all the obstacles you have to do in getting in and out of there.
Oh, of course.
So I take it, that being a resident of New Jersey and working in New York, you have to do 2 tax returns.
Yes.
You have to do,
Yes.
actually 3, right? In New Jersey, in New York, and a federal return.
Yes.
Uh, that's something that CPA that we were talking about earlier helps you with?
Yes.
Okay, good. We're going to talk a little bit about that longer. But let's talk about, very quickly, about your retirement plan, if you have any at JP.
Mhm.
Do you have a 401K there?
Yes.
And are you contributing to it?
Yeah, I do the match. Sometimes I try to go a little more than that.
Okay, how much is the match there?
It's 6% as well.
Okay. Now, would you be interested in finding ways to help maximizing how much you could contribute to your 401K plan?
Yep.
Okay, so that's something we're gonna go back and we're gonna design for you and make recommendations. It'll be totally up to you whether you want to implement it or not, but at least you'll have all the information at your fingertips. You'll be able to make an informed decision. Okay, again, like most people who work for large corporations like you do, you probably have health benefits through work.
Yes.
Is that the case with both of you?
Yep.
Is there one plan that covers both of you, or do you each have your own plan?
Separate plans.
Okay, and who insures you?
Blue Cross,
Okay, very good company. Blue Cross Blue Shield of New Jersey?
yes.
Okay. Happy with the plan?
I'm still alive, right?
Okay, you look healthy. Do you feel that you understand all the features and the benefits that the plan offers?
Yeah, it's pretty straightforward. Doesn't cost me much, so
Okay, how much do you think it costs you a month out of your own pocket?
$170.
Okay, wonderful. You plan at work, Ryan?
I'm not entirely sure. I believe it's Aetna, but I could be wrong about
Okay. Do you have to pay anything out of your own pocket?
that. I'll be honest, I have no idea.
Okay, and then, you know what, that's perfectly natural. So really, part of the reason I'm asking these questions is not to dig at your little health, what you have and what you don't have, but is to help you understand what you do have and make good decisions. So what I would recommend, if you're able, and to the extent you're able, is to get a copy of your benefit plan. And I would take a copy, and I work with some very good people in my agency who are very well versed and educated in that, so we can help you make decisions or recommendations as to how to get the most value out of what your work offers you. How does that sound?
Sounds good.
Great, wonderful. So we'll make it a point to do that. Now, the third future concern that is usually addressed through the corporate workplace is a life insurance policy. Many of us have life insurance policies through work. Is that the case with the both of you?
Yes.
Do you know how much you're insured for?
It's 3 times my salary.
Okay, and how much insurance would that be?
It's about $400-something thousand.
Okay, wonderful. Congratulations. Now, do you know about how that insurance works? Is it something you pay for? Is it something you keep if you leave the job?
From what I heard, it goes up if I leave significantly, the price of it.
Okay, and so in order to keep that, if you leave the job, you would have to pay a much, much larger premium
Yeah.
than you do now. Do you know what you're paying as your share of that now?
I'm not too sure. I really wouldn't be able to give you a direct answer on that, but nothing, large enough where I see it as a major expense at the
Okay.
moment.
So that's something, again, when we sit down and we look at the big picture, we'll make some consideration, we'll take into account, and perhaps make some recommendations. How about you, Mike? Any insurance to work?
Yeah, mine is 2 times my salary.
2 times your salary?
Yeah.
Okay, and do you know how much insurance that is if something were to happen to you?
It's about $320,000.
Okay, wonderful. Now, so the same situation would go with you. Do you know if that's something that you keep if you leave work, or you have an option to keep paying for it? How does that work, if you know?
I believe it terminates, but I'm not entirely sure on that.
Okay. So what I would recommend is, just like with your health plan, I'm sure you both have employee benefits booklets.
Yep.
If you were able to gather them, even if you could put it in PDF format and get it to me, we will sit down and work through that, not me alone, but me in collaboration with my team, and we'll try to help you make the best decisions. We'll point out the options that work best for you, because like most plans, you have options there. and you might be aware of them, but then again, those booklets tend to be very thick, and very few of us sit and read through it. I have people that will read through it line by line, and will come back to you and tell you what your best options are within the companies that you work. How does that sound?
Sounds good.
So now, the next big future concern that most of us get through work, or at least is considered, is disability insurance. And from my experience, that tends to be a very complex proposition. So I would ask, do you know if you have disability insurance?
I believe I do at work. The specifics of it.
Very, very confusing, isn't it?
Do I get paid? I don't know if they're paying me. Is it? I don't know the specifics.
What about you?
I don't have disability insurance.
No, it is, and you know, what you're saying is just perfectly natural. Many of us are in just the same position. You know, we're familiar with our 401k plans to an extent. We're familiar with our health benefits to an extent. Why? For the 401k, money comes out every paycheck, so we get to look at it. The health insurance is something that we deal with on a regular basis. The money comes out of our paycheck, you know, and like most of us go to the doctor at least once or twice a year, and you know, if we get the flu, maybe we go more. So that's something that's front and center of our mind. As you move toward things like life insurance, but particularly disability insurance, that's something most of us don't get to think about on a daily basis, but it's a very important type of insurance. You know why?
If I can't work, I can't make money.
Precisely. And you know that the odds of somebody your age needing to turn to disability insurance is perhaps 4 or 5 times that of somebody your age needing to provide life insurance for his or her family.
I did not know that. That's
Yeah, it's a very under-discussed area of protection planning. And for that reason, I'd like to bring it and make it front and center. Is that something you'd like to learn a little bit more about?
definitely.
Yeah, and again, I can't overemphasize, if you get your benefits booklets from work, your health benefits and your general employee benefits, we will sit down, we will scour through them, and we'll help you make the decisions that are best for you. How does that sound?
Sounds good.
Any questions so far?
I,
We're moving along pretty good, so, okay. Time is not an issue, correct?
Time is not an issue.
Okay. So now as we move down the spectrum here, we talk about the concept of long-term care planning. Are you familiar with what that means?
Retirement home, kind of care home.
Very good, very good. Do you know if you have that?
That I'm not sure. I don't think I have.
Is
long-term
it
care.
offered through work?
I don't think so.
Okay. So you're going to find, as we get to know each other better, as we develop a relationship, you're going to have a lot of options in areas where chronic illness becomes a concern or a possibility. And in case you haven't noticed, as we move down the spectrum, these are the most common things, and these are things that people tend not to think about quite as much, but are just as important as the things in the front of the outline.
I move to a spot where you get to the wrap up.
Well, you don't want me to go through the pain funnel?
No, let's assume that you did that. Let's get to a wrap up spot.
Okay, so we've talked about a lot of things here today. And we've talked about your corporate plan. And we talked a little bit about your individual and your estate planning and your tax situation. Do you have any questions before we go forward?
Just the disability planning. Just to focus on that and whatever we agreed we were gonna do.
Okay, so, okay, so the next time we meet, that one of the things that is gonna be front and center is some more in-depth discussion about disability planning. So what I suggest what we do is set up a meeting for the next, in about a week or so. Is about a week from now a good time?
Yeah, that should work.
Here. Now, is there anybody that helps the two of you in your financial decision-making?
CPA.
Okay, so that's your cousin.
Mm-hmm.
Would you think it would help if your cousin would be here?
I can give him a call. He's really busy.
Okay, well, why don't you do that? And even if he can't come next week, it's certainly somebody we should sit down with, as well as your lawyer cousin and collaborate with, but there's no other individuals in your life, like parents or brothers and sisters that?
No.
Very good. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll set the same time, 10 a.m., next Wednesday, right here in the same office. I'll give you a call a day or so to remind you about the appointment. Am I supposed to go in at this point to the social media and the, or you don't want me to go to that point?
Too late.